Looking back on the last 3 years of fantasy football data, it's amazing to actually see what's going on with pass catchers of the football. Take Alvin Kamara and what I call the Alvin Kamara effect, where the New Orleans Saints moved up in a draft where they saw a guy with capabilities that were going to fulfill the needs of one guy on the team called Drew Brees. They had to take pressure off Brees. That's the only reason I can think of why they moved up in a draft to complement Mark Ingram. It was Brees. He's getting older. He can't do it all, right? You got to prime that pump for an older guy. No offense to Drew Brees, he's not old, but in the fantasy world, you got Carson Palmer retired, Tom Brady, right? Well, he sleeps on, kale and lettuce and drinks like 19 glasses of water a day, and he's got a different life. But other than that, I would say some of these older quarterbacks need help, and that's why they got Kamara. It's amazing to see some of the breakdowns here. I've drawn a line on the top 12, which I call elite, right? If you could have had some of these guys on your team over the past 3 years, you would have done quite well. It is amazing to think in one of the leagues I'm in, and actually the screen I'm showing, I had Kamara and I had Melvin Gordon on the same team. I've drafted those guys. This is a Dynasty 2 QB Superflex I'm showing you. I also had Tariq Cohen, a guy that made my top 32 list. I like to look at the top 32 players that finished, and I kind of box in guys. Yes, you got some IDP in the numbers because we play a balanced fantasy football league, and it's Dynasty, so it's fun. But here's what I wanted to show you that was kind of cool. I looked up how many people caught a football as a running back. In 2015, it was 150. Look at how that number dips to 143 in 2016, but then moves up to 139. It's not very relevant. I get it. You don't have to ask that question because I'm already telling you. The answer is it's really in the receptions over here, right? And no surprise here. I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but I thought it was interesting on what happened to 2016. Look at this complete dive right here on the number of receptions overall. I took everybody on the list, and 17 is just growing. It's going to be the trend. So why did Dion Lewis get traded to the Titans with that new offensive coordinator coming from the Rams? Because they're going to use him. And yes, if you own Derrick Henry, that was not very fun news to get, although Henry will dominate in the touchdown category only. But it's the Tariq Cohens, the Dion Lewises. We're kind of back to this day and age, guys, when Danny Woodhead, if you play PPR, this Alvin Kamara effect is worthwhile to note. But what's the whole point of this video? Well, in Dynasty, is it going to be another article that you read online where the fantasy analysis, tries to mix opinion with numbers? That's what we all do. I mean, that's what happens when you read articles. But my thing is going forward, it's interesting how the ratio in my league the last 3 years has shifted from like 3-1, where it was always like 3 elite wide receivers to 1 running back. And now it's kind of like it's not quite a 1-1 ratio, but it's shifted. Something's changed, right? You can see this clearly on these 3 graphs. And so these runners that take way more hits, up to 25 hits per game, and they're getting hit by guys like Kaiwan Alexander or Khalil Mack, right? Compared to an Antonio Brown getting hit by, let's say, Landon Collins, who, by the way, is the hard-hitting guy. But I'm saying in relative sense, these guys are getting hit by a lot smaller folks than some of these runners are. And so the fragility part of this whole Dynasty thing, yes, you got to have runners in your draft, but I almost think don't forget about the youth and the wide receiver youth when you're doing your Dynasty draft too, because Corey Davis was kind of overlooked last year when he was so overblown hyped. Well, he was overblown hyped because people are looking at the long term. It's the casual fan that says, oh, no, he didn't do very good. I think he got hurt or whatever, right? They're looking at these end-all facts. But look at the long term, and it's the wide receivers and the young guys that are going to make the longevity and win the race. That's not to say you're not going to go after running backs, but you have to have a blended mix of both. And that's why I think right now, if you're playing Dynasty Fantasy Football, you might have to trade some running backs to go get some younger wide receivers because they're all but extinct now. I mean, look at some of the top guys here, Antonio Brown, Julio Jones, these names, they're fun to look at, right? It's just how they've aged in time. And now you're dealing with a bunch of young guys, right? You have all these young wide receivers. And so I just think still what you're going to want to do is have a plan in place. And of course still draft those running backs, but maybe trade some existing ones. Because the other thing that we haven't really talked about here is the age of Tom Brady and Carson Palmer and some of these Breeze guys. You're going to have a huge changing of the guard pretty soon in the NFL with their age. That's going to be fascinating in itself, because this is a pretty good draft class that came into the NFL with a bunch of rookie quarterbacks. Is that the next trend? I don't know. I think it's going to be fascinating to watch. All I can tell you is the Kamara effect has been noticed by a lot of NFL teams, and they saw something out there on the field that, number one, took pressure off their quarterback, and complemented another runner like Ingram, and then boom, all of a sudden this guy just explodes on the scene. So fun to look at. If you make a chart like this in your league, it's pretty easy to sort out. If you play MFL, you can definitely copy and paste and take a look at some of these guys and some of these numbers. The projections are always fun in June, and this is just the way it is. But sometimes when you do dig into the numbers, you're going to have to take a look at guys. Now, everybody's asking me about Christian McCaffrey. Yes, he's still viable, of course. It's Christian McCaffrey. But I think he's got company, man, with C.J. Anderson. And that does not bode well, in my opinion, to a lot of those in the goal line situations. McCaffrey's going to catch the ball, no doubt, and he's going to be explosive. That's just what he is. But watch out for C.J. Anderson, definitely vulturing a lot of that. Plus, you have Cam Newton who can vulture. So McCaffrey's going to be an interesting one on that front as well. But anyways, Johnny B from UpsideDownDrafting.com. Take a look at your past 3 snapshots in your league. Run your numbers like I have. It might help you. Maybe look at some draft trends if you're watching on a redraft standpoint. I don't know. Maybe I've helped you out. Maybe I haven't. But thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't made that change over to Dynasty, be sure and watch my video on how to start a Dynasty Fantasy Football League. Johnny B, UpsideDownDrafting.com. Thanks for watching. Be good now.